Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Mantry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And my apologies to folks tuning into the live stream. I'm the reason we're a little bit late. I was trying to do Windows 10 upgrades on all my computers before the stupid July 29th thing, and it's been an adventure. And I tried to do like a dual screen thing, and then Manycam wouldn't work to let me do like the split screen, and now it's just going to be like worse than ever. So thank you for upgrades happening on short notice. Well, not really short notice. I've had a year.
I was gonna say it's not short notice, and it's and like all things, you're like, well, I'm sitting at my computer right now. I've got a couple of hours. Let's do it right before the podcast because that seems like a good idea.
I just started like an hour ago. I'm all stressed out now.
Why you should be stressed out? Why you started an hour ago? That's ridiculous.
Because that's when I was home.
Oh, yeah.
Can't do it while I'm not home.
This is AV Rant, the podcast where we answer your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can also CC Rob at AV Rant and Tom at AV Rant to make sure that it gets on the question list. You can go to www.avrant.com where you can leave us a comment there. That has been working for some people. Also, I mean, it works for all people, but some people have been using it. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast. We're very active there. And Rob is on Twitter at First Reflect. I am at AVRant_Tom. And our producer, Austin Pond, is at Austin Pond, I guess. I forgot. It's only been a week since I've done this podcast, right?
Yes, welcome back, by the way. And thank you to Lee Overstreet for filling in once again last week whilst you were away.
Yes, Lee, thank you very much. Austin, our producer, also has his own podcast. It is called We Watch Movies. It is a podcast about Watcher.
Okay. We need it right now. It's hot.
It's actually been one. It was only like 89 today, which felt awfully cool for this area.
If people are hearing a hum in the background on the YouTube video, I'm sorry, that's my fan behind me because I will melt if I do not have it. So yes, there is noise on my microphone.
Might be worth watching.
I'm sorry.
It might be worth seeing that.
Yeah.
I have to introduce a guest here tonight. He's only going to be here momentarily. My middle son, Kellen, has been very interested in helping me set up for the podcast. And he comes in here, whether I like it or not, and helps me set up. And he wanted to like sit in the room and watch the podcast as it happened. But of course, he can't hear Rob's side, which is the most interesting side of this podcast anyways. So he'd be listening to a lot of me reading questions and Rob answering them, so it would be okay. So he's going to watch it later, but he wanted to be internet famous, so he needs to be on the YouTubes. This is my son, Kellen. Kellen, come over here. Say hi, Kellen.
Hi.
So if you are on YouTube right now, this thing right here is pretty much all me. Like my other two sons have a lot of their mom in them, but this guy right here, I'm at fault for all of that. So Kellen here is wearing a Bahamas hat because his mom went on a mother's cruise with her mom last week, and that's what he got. I got 2 bottles of rum, which I felt was better, but he got the Bahamas hat. So Kellen, do you want to say anything to YouTube before you go to bed? Because it's time for you to go to bed.
I'm famous.
What?
I'm famous.
You're famous now. Okay. Thank you very much. Go to bed. Don't break that light as you walk past it. Thank you very much. Good night. And he is off. Okay. So that was the thing that had to happen.
I was doing my best to stay quiet there so that the video wouldn't switch back to me because that would be pointless.
I know. I could have clicked it on to make it just me. We have been doing the split screen until Rob figures out the Manycam thing. The split screen is not going to work right now, but Rob, feel free to contact Manycam and get that thing sorted out.
It'll get sorted out. It was the last thing I was doing, and then it was like, I don't have the driver for this, and like, okay, just forget it.
All right. For reasons I don't understand, my microphone keeps slowly falling down. Like I've tightened it twice.
That would be a lack of friction.
I understand the concept. What I don't understand is how much tighter I can make this thing because it seems to want to keep falling. So, all right. Did you guys like it completely caught up last week? So now...
Nope. We had stuff left over because Lee had to go. We couldn't go for 2.5 hours like we often do. Okay. Only 2.
Well, that's good. All right, let's get straight into the news. First of all, I'm very disappointed that none of this news has anything to do with the trailers that came out at Comic-Con because, frankly, that was
we can throw that in.
The only thing I cared about is that what happened last week.
There's Comic-Con stuff down lower on the list, so you can throw it in there.
I love. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so in the news via Antoine, Outlaw Audio is a new wireless subwoofer kit. The The OAW4 system is priced at $119 for one stereo transmitter plus one stereo receiver unit. Additional receiver units can be purchased for $60 a pop. So the OAW, I don't always want to say the A first. OAW4 is less expensive than the discontinued OAW3 system, and it promises a wider frequency range from 10 hertz up to 20 kilohertz, greater distance up to 130 feet, and CD quality using 2.4 gigahertz transmission, which means it's going to mess with your cordless phones. And my experience has always been that microwaves and 2.4 gigahertz do not get along very well at all.
That's what the old one was too, though. So it's not going to be hopefully not any worse. But hey, lower price, can't complain about that. So a little bit different form factor, but yeah, we'll probably still recommend it without having tried it until someone tells us it doesn't work very well.
That's right. Antoine and Infinite Gary both sent us some information about Sony's new Z-Series HDR TVs. They are available for pre-order for $7,000 for the 65-inch, $10,000 for the 75-inch, and if you have to ask, you can't afford it for the 100-inch. Meaning they've said
60,000 pounds, British pounds. So it's
isn't that like
about $100,000? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, the pounds. What's the pound worth now? Nothing.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's less.
For Brexit.
It bounced back.
Whatever. What sets the Z-Series apart is Backlight Master Drive.
That's the name. Sony loves their trademark names.
I just want to say that do we have to make everything sound like a Tron villain? Does everything have to sound like a Tron villain, Sony? I don't think it does. But yes, Backlight Master Drive, which Sony demoed in the prototype back at CES. Instead of zones, every single LED can be individually dimmed, basically making it an FALD display with over 1,000 zones. If every single LED can be dimmed, then it's more than 1,000 zones. It's like millions of zones.
No, because they only have slightly over 1,000 LEDs back there. It's not one LED per pixel.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a lot more than any other previous full array local dimming display. So that's sort of the claim to fame.
All right, so they say it's probably not going to hit the 4,000 nits as the prototype at CES, but all the journalists who saw it were super impressed. Sony is saying is that it's their answer to OLED in terms of black levels and being able to significantly brighter than OLED is what they're saying. Yeah. Gary wonders if it's an OLED killer, says the man who just bought an OLED.
At those prices, not so much, because OLEDs are undercutting them there, and also not a Dolby Vision display, HDR10 only.
Yeah. So. DTS announced new Mac-based DTS X encoder and DTS X media player software for content creation professionals. The suite will cost $1,500 and be available in August. And Paramount released some Blu-ray titles with DTS X and DTS Headphone X. So support seems to be growing.
Yeah, I kind of riffed on DTS X there last week a little bit, saying, I'm really not seeing that much support. Well, they're trying to change that, and Paramount has come on board and released some new titles, so I guess it's gonna happen. I guess we actually do want those DTS X updates to arrive, so there you go.
This next one just pisses me off to no end.
There's a good news story coming up here. Rant time.
The Xbox One S does not support Dolby Vision. It's gonna be HDR10 only, and cannot output HD audio bit streams. Why?
The Xbox One already does not.
I know. I keep thinking they're going to fix it with the patch, but clearly they're not. So this means that not only will it not do HD audio bit streams, but the Atmos and DTS X absolutely cannot work because it has to be bit streamed out.
Those have to be bit streamed out, yeah. So, I mean, Microsoft has said there's no real hardware reason for either of those, for Dolby Vision or for HD audio bit stream. There's no hardware reason it can't be done. It's just low on their priority list for some reason.
Why?
I don't know.
It's literally, I bet it would take seconds. There's some programmer going, all I gotta do is press this button and it works.
They've got apps that used to work in all previous versions of Windows to break in Windows 10, as I discovered an hour ago. So, they're busy.
The last company still manufacturing VHS VCRs will cease production this month due to declining sales. So they sold 750,000 units in 15.
Yep.
750,000 seems like
I
a
know.
lot.
That's still a lot of VCRs being sold, if you ask me. Like, yes, it's not the 15 million they sold at their peak. Obviously, VCR is not at its peak anymore. But they still sold 750,000 units in a year.
I feel like I would still make those things. I mean, those
Well,
parts are just lying around. You could probably build one at Radio Shack if you tried real hard.
It's Funai in Japan, and they said actually the reason they're doing it is because they can't get parts anymore. So
oh, well, okay. Well, that makes sense.
That's the end. So a year ago, Betamax finally completely stopped production, and that was the end of the format war. VHS finally won, and now VHS has also died. So there you go.
Well, Betamax actually, I mean, they were still being used in studios quite a bit because of the higher quality.
That's done now. So we have said goodbye to video cassette tapes.
I'm waiting for the fanfare or whatever to happen.
We need
the wailing, the trumpets,
the gun salute,
gnashing of teeth. All right, it's cool stories from Comic-Con, I guess. Mystery Science Theater 3000 is now a Netflix series after extremely successful Kickstarter campaign. So
that'll be fun.
They get a Kickstarter campaign and then sell themselves to Netflix and profit.
I guess that's what's going to happen. I mean, they were going to bring it back. It was going to be fan funded, and then Netflix is like, "Hey, we'll throw money at you and have your service, have your show exclusively on our service." So there you go. MST3K coming back on Netflix. I'm happy.
I have a feeling it's not going to be as good. No.
Patton Oswalt's there though, and Felicia Day.
I know. I'll be honest with you, and you guys got to understand. I'm full on geek, but I think Felicia Day is highly overrated. I mean, I really, really do. I loved her in Dr. Horrible.
Sure.
And she was okay in that web series she did. The Guild was okay. Was all right. But I hated her in Supernatural. Really hated her in Supernatural. And she's just kind of coasting along on like the geek love. And frankly, I just don't. I think she's highly overrated. That being said, this might be brilliant. That's fine, but that's just my opinion. Brie Larson will be Captain Marvel, apparently.
Yeah, yay. That's nice casting. That's yet another person who used to be on Community coming into the Marvel
Which
universe.
one is she? The blonde?
No. That's Gillian Jacobs. Brie Larson was what's his face? Danny Pudi's character.
Captain Marvel is a chick.
Yeah, Captain Marvel's a girl. Brie Larson was his girlfriend in the final 2 seasons.
Oh, okay, I didn't see.
So she was like
I know the name. I bet if you showed me her face, I would. I didn't have a chance to look her up because
she just won an Oscar. So
don't care. I don't have network TV. I want to watch the Oscars. I did have network.
I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel will not end up being like Catwoman because Halle Berry won her Oscar and then became Catwoman. Brie Larson wins her Oscar and then becomes Captain Marvel. But I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel's going to be better.
You would have to really try to make it worse.
Charlize Theron also won her Oscar and then became the character in Aeon Flux, and that was terrible. So not a good.
That was not nearly as bad as it was not nearly as bad as Catwoman, which was just painful to watch. All right, the new Star Trek series, a new Star Trek series is called Star Trek Discovery, which is the name of this new ship, which it always says, right?
Yeah.
The show takes place in the Prime timeline, which is
not the Kelvin timeline, which is the movies timeline. It's back in the original. So this is taking place. I don't know exactly when. Like, I don't know if this is taking place after Voyager or before one of the series. Like, they haven't nailed.
I don't think they can have it after Voyager. I mean, honestly, I don't think they can because Voyager, when they skipped forward a bunch of years and they came back and Voyager had like the armor stuff. I was like, where did they get the armor? That's awesome. Let's have some of that.
The early shots of the ship, the USS Discovery, it looks pretty advanced, so it doesn't look like they're going into the past. So, yeah. Anyway.
Could be.
But it's a streaming show. It's not going to be airing on television.
So it's going to be on CBS All Access. Canadians will have to watch it on Crave TV. Both those, so CBS All Access and Crave TV are both $6 a month. Of course, our $6 are more than your $6.
That's right.
Yeah. For all of the countries, it'll be on Netflix 24 hours after the North American availability. Well, that sucks.
I know. I wish it was on our Netflix.
I want it on my Netflix.
But Bell Media in Canada owns Crave TV, and they have the rights to all the Star Treks in Canada. Although they are on Netflix right now anyway. So who knows what'll happen. But in the States, you're probably the most boned out of everybody is in the States. CBS All Access.
All right,
service
Orphan
nobody
Black will
has.
end with season 5, meaning Tatiana
Tatiana.
Maslany,
Maslany.
whatever. We'll have an open schedule for something like Star Wars or playing X-23. X-23 would be awesome.
I hope she's X-23. There's a few of us out there who are vocalizing that we want her to be X-23 because she would be awesome at it, and she's already Canadian. So there you go.
Okay, so X-23, I have not read those comic books, but I kind of know the gist of it. She's a clone
of Wolverine.
And she's got like a or the dual claws that come out of her hands and like one claw that comes out of her foot.
That's right.
Yeah.
So she still has 6 claws total, 2 in each hand, 1 in each foot. And she's a clone of Logan.
Except of a female.
That's right.
So she has all the same powers. She's healing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And tracking people and stuff.
And she is Wolverine in the comics right now.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, then there's a bunch of movie
trailers.
So we had the Luke Cage, which was stunning to look at. I was like, why is he even taking this car door into this? Oh, you're going to wrap it around somebody. Well, that makes sense. The Iron Fist one is pretty oblique and didn't get much out of it, though kind of looked okay from what I saw. The Defenders didn't really give us any information whatsoever.
They're not even shooting that yet, so.
But that's not Punisher, and that's the fourth character is Punisher.
No, it's supposed to be Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones. They're the Defenders.
Oh, they're the Defenders. I thought that. Okay, it was all right. So, and I guess the Justice League movie looked interesting, though. I don't know. Ben Affleck.
The Wonder Woman trailer was pretty darn awesome. So that tells me the problem isn't DC. The problem isn't their characters or their movies. The problem is Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder is clearly incapable of making a decent DC movie.
Because that Wonder Woman trailer, I was like, I would like to see that.
That looked awesome. Nice. I did too.
That looks really good.
in my world, we call that slavery. Oh, I like her. Yes, I mean, it's about time. It's shocking to me that the first high-profile female character that gets her own movie is a DC character. I'm not saying that Wonder Woman isn't iconic and shouldn't have her own movie. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Marvel's made a buttload of movies.
Yeah.
And none of them have had a really high-profile female character. I mean, there are, we just said Aeon Flux.
I mean, it's really Black Widow and Scarlet Witch is all they have right now as far as female characters, and that's neither of them has been the lead in their own movie.
No. Black Widow could carry a movie. As far as what I understand, what Scarlet Witch's powers are, at least in the comic book, it ends up. Doctor Strange looked awesome.
Yes, it did.
Very excited about that. So I could talk about movies all day, though. I don't want to do that, but I could totally do that.
We got questions to answer.
We got questions. We got some questions from last week. All right. These will be new to me. All right. Ryan has been a listener for about a year. Are you putting up the thing yet? If you put up the thing, you gotta let me know.
I'm going to try. Give me a second here. I'm going to give it a go.
Has been a listener for about a year and has enjoyed it and learned a lot. And because of us, he's now ready to start building his own theater. Excuse me. I should have got some water. He has a friend who's a carpenter, another friend who owns a masonry company, so the actual construction is not a concern. I just want to say I've got a friend that do these sorts of things too, and while the construction is not a concern, you're all going to be surprised how much you're going to spend in stuff. I mean, the materials cost a lot, especially when you're not buying them wholesale because you're building an entire house. When you're buying them from Home Depot, they end up costing a bunch. So make sure you're talking to your friends and getting whatever they tell you it's going to cost, triple it, because that's just what it's going to end up costing.
It could be, yeah.
I think it's just a really safe thing. And if it doesn't cost you that much, you get another subwoofer. All right. His rough budget, not including the construction, is $8,500. He's budgeted $1,500 to $1,600 for speakers. $1,000 for subs, which he has already said are going to be 2 times 18-inch DIY sealed.
He's building
subs.
His own, hoping to get bigger, louder for less money by making them himself.
Okay. Screen, he's got a budget of $380, which means he shopped it already and knows what he's going to buy.
Yep.
Projector, he's got $2,000, which is a good price, and you maybe can save some money there depending on how big his room is. Receiver plus amps. Don't know why he needs the amps, but maybe he's got a reason for that.
Because he's going for Atmos.
So let me get to it. $2,000. Seating, $1,500. He already has a couch for the second row. So $1,500. Yeah, Okay, what kind of seat? I mean, if he's just going to get another couch, then that's probably fine. But if you're going to get those reclining seats, usually you budget anywhere from
You can get the ones from Home Theater Market, from HD
Yeah,
Market.
but $300 to $500 per chair, is close to $500 per chair. I think is what the company works.
It's doable.
And then he's got another $200 for another amp. So he's got amps all over the place. He's got amps in the subwoofer budget. He's got amps in his receiver budget and amps in his amp budget. And DIY room treatments are part of the construction budget, he says, which we're not seeing here. All right, the theater room dimensions are, let me click this other thing down here so we can see what Rob is looking at here.
Yep.
All right, here is, I'm just going to read this off. I can't see what he's got. Theater room dimensions are 11 feet wide by 27 feet long by 8 feet high with 2 rows of seating with 6-inch riser for the front and a 12-inch for the rear. He doesn't want the front row on the concrete slab.
That's fair enough.
I don't know why, though. Why?
I don't know. I guess he doesn't want it directly on the concrete for some reason, so.
Yeah, but why? Because it's going to bug me.
I don't have a problem with that plan, so that's okay.
I don't have a problem with it either, but why? I mean, is his feet are going to be cold? I mean, I don't know. Okay, whatever. 7.2.4 Atmos setup with an extra set of side surrounds for the second row. All surround speakers need to be in wall. Okay, as he already said, he's got 2 DIY sealed 18-inch subwoofers placed in opposite corners. So he wants a 138-inch 2.35 to 1 acoustically transparent screen mounted on the false wall. He's going to get that for $380, I guess. He deliberately deliberated. I'm sorry, this a lot, but he loves watching CinemaScope content on his 21.9 monitor and loves seeing the wider and bigger than the 16:9 content. And over half of his movie collection is 2.35 to 1 or similar ratio. So he will be building magnetic masking for his 16:9 viewing. Okay, so anyways, whatever, don't care. He's picked out a screen, is what I took from that. That, he's picked out a screen. He knows what he wants. He doesn't want any other help with that.
That's right. Yeah.
He wants to spend the bulk of his speaker budget on the mains and center with like a linear response and lots of output.
Sure.
His thoughts are 3 EMP Tech R55 Ti's or 3 chain. Those guys are still in business?
Yeah, I know.
I don't think they're still in business.
We're not going to recommend those.
I'm pretty sure they're not in business, and if they are, they will take your money, but you ain't getting no speakers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So out of the two, the one that will actually send you speakers and the one that I don't think so, I'm gonna go with the one that'll send you speakers. Sorry. So anyways, he says if he gets the 3 EMP techs, that only leaves around $400 to $500 for the other 10 speakers. So he's looking to monoprice new Kevlar in-wall lineup to stay within budget. Are there any other speakers that could work, or is he skimping too much on the surround budget? He doesn't want to come out and at the end of the project disappointed with all of the surround. So the real question we've got so far is how much to spend on the speakers. So he wants to spend a total of no more than $1,600 on his speakers.
Yeah.
But and with Atmos surrounds, well, you can usually save. Like if you were saying to me, I want to spend the least amount of money I can on my speakers, where can I skimp the most? So those ones that are going overhead,
sure,
clearly,
and your surround backs
will be the ones that you could do. I lost track of where we were. Hold on a second here.
So I mean, first I wanted to address his front speakers because those are the most important, right? So if you go with the EMP techs, you will not be disappointed. So I am all for those. The only thing I will say is he's planning on an acoustically transparent screen. In the first diagram, it appears as though he's planning to have those all three behind the acoustically transparent screen. Therefore, their looks really don't matter too much. And as we talked about last week, even though they are a bit glossy, that probably doesn't matter too much. But, non-glossy is still sometimes preferable if you're putting it behind a screen. So I will just mention, Tom's going to hate it, but yes, Ascend Acoustics, the CMT 340s, they are a flat matte black, and they're a little bit less expensive. That's the main reason I'm putting them out there, is because they are a little bit less expensive than the EMP techs, which gives you like at least maybe an extra $100 or so to spend on the other remaining speakers. So I'll throw that out there as a possibility. But if you go with the EMP techs, you won't be disappointed. So I could totally back that.
Does he need the towers though? I mean, does he have to have the towers for this?
It's
room?
not out of place. It's 27 feet long, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at that same thing too, and I'm especially for that front row, maybe not, but that back row.
I mean, the other thing is you don't necessarily need the big wide center because that's definitely going behind his screen, but EMP Tech as far as I know, they don't sell the towers as singles, do
I
they?
don't think they do. No. You could ask them. They might.
You could ask them. Yeah, they might
I
send
don't
it.
think so.
Ascend Acoustics will, so you can do that. You can get 3 vertical ones if you want to instead of one of the horizontal ones. Because with the CMT 340s, I will say the horizontal center version does have a slightly modified crossover to try and compensate for it being horizontal. So if you get 3 verticals, make sure you order 3 verticals is all. You can do that over the phone. But yeah, give either of them a call and see what you can get. But yeah, going over to those surround backs, overhead speakers. Like, first I wanted to say, I'll tell you the ones that I think would be really, really good matches, like tonally, timbre-wise,
right.
except that they might exceed your budget. But if you're going with the EMP techs, I would certainly have you look at RBHs, obviously, in walls and in ceilings. And they have ones, they have in walls called the A615s and in ceilings called the A610s. Those will match really nicely with those EMP tech speakers. However, if you get them from a dealer at full retail price, they're about $350, $375 a pair, which means you wouldn't be able to get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of them for like $600, obviously, right?
Right.
But tonally, they'll match really well. Now, I will say those ones that I just mentioned, those RBH in walls and in ceilings, you can find them from non-authorized dealers for like $200 a pair. But then they're non-authorized and you don't have an RBH warranty anymore. So it's kind of iffy to buy them that way.
Save your money, maybe?
But, well, what I was thinking is maybe get those for your surrounds.
Yeah.
And then go super cheap on the surround backs and the overheads. I'm thinking that's a halfway decent compromise way to come at this.
Yeah, I could go with that. I could get behind that.
Yeah.
Because the surrounds are going to be really important because you're going to have 2 of them as well. And if you start getting cheaper as you're going back, it's going to get sketchy. So, even your surround backs, if you can wing a little bit of extra money to get those surround backs,
maybe,
that match.
Very similarly, if you were to go for the Ascend Acoustics ones, Dave Fabricant himself recommends Sonance. So Sonance is actually they were like one of the first companies to ever offer in walls and in ceilings.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a series called Visual Performance. So if you look at it would be like the VP62. Would be the model to look at there. And again, it's very similar in price at retail to those RBHs, about $350 a pair. So either way, those are the ones I would recommend most highly. And I'm thinking you could maybe get away with getting 4 of those as your surrounds, then go for like the mono prices for your other surround backs and overheads. I think that's the way I might come at this to try and stay on budget.
Okay.
Yeah?
Going back to the question.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I could get behind those. Because of the position of the rear door inside stairwell, he's stuck with putting the surround backs at least about 8 feet behind the back row and out wider than the seating.
Mm-hmm.
Would this work, or does the placement that compromised make them not worth even having? Does a placement that compromised make them not worth even having? So with the top rear Atmos speakers be able to fill in the gap, and if they're not worthwhile, you can save a little on speaker costs, not need the extra 2-channel amp either.
It's very questionable. I mean, you definitely have a significant room behind, like space behind even the rear row of seats in this setup.
I agree.
And you definitely want something behind you.
I could totally get behind rear heights that could go over the door.
That's very much, very like, so they could kind of go in the wall to ceiling, like the edge of where the wall meets the ceiling, right at the back. So then it would be mounted above the door.
Yeah.
And that way you could have them close, because I do think they're a little bit spread too wide the way they're shown right now.
Yes, they are. I agree.
That is a little bit too wide. So yeah, I could get behind rear height, but then you're going to 5.2.4 if you do it that way, because you can't have rear heights plus top rears plus top fronts. Rear heights count as one of the overhead pairs. Right. So, but I mean that would be acceptable.
So rear heights, top middles.
Yeah, rear heights, top middles, or rear heights, top fronts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And done. Then you're saving
or,
2 speakers and amps, and then you can get the speakers that you want.
Yeah, or you could just mount them up high like that, a little bit closer together, and still call them surround backs. That wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too bad. I mean,
No, it
you're
really
at such
wouldn't.
an angle anyways, and everything's off the ground for whatever reason. But I think I see. I wonder if that. You see those little dots of those circles on the thing? I wonder if he's planning on putting some sort of.
Oh, those are shadows from the overhead speakers, the ones that are on the floor.
I
so
see.
That's showing.
All right, showing where they are.
Yeah. So either way, either way, we would say mount them up high on that back wall so that they can be closer together, in line with your front left to right speakers, in line with your overhead speakers. And then if you want to go 7.2.4, go ahead and still call them surround backs. That won't kill the sound if you do it that way. Or you could opt for 5.1.4 or 5.2.4 and call them rear heights. So
I would. This is what I'm going to say. Wire, where we're telling you for the rear heights or surround backs, wire for top back or whatever they call those things.
Yeah, top rears. Yeah,
top rears. Sort of right behind the second row of seats.
Yep.
A wire for top fronts.
Yep.
And then only install speakers for right now in that upper position in the rear and the top fronts.
Sure.
And then run for right now 5.2.4
and see how it goes. And then you've got the speaker wire in the ceiling.
You've got the speaker wire, and later on you can buy it. If you're like, I really feel like I need more sound in this room, you can say later on, I've saved another $200, $350. I can buy that and the amp that goes along with it. And
I can dig that.
I think that's the way to go. All right. We getting off of that now?
Yep. I am trying to get out of my screen share thing.
Blah, blah, blah. If he does do surround backs and needs 2-channel app, should he go with something inexpensive since only be power this? Whatever we said before. He's planning on a 138-inch 2.35 to 1 screen, which gives him around a 110-inch 6 to 6.
Oh wait, we didn't really answer that app question.
We didn't.
We shouldn't skip over that entirely. No.
If he does do surround backs and needs a 2-channel amp, should he go with something inexpensive since the amp? I thought he was talking about the speakers.
Yeah, so this rolls into he's got this $2,000 budget for a receiver and then an additional $200 for amps. I would say you can get an 11 speaker capable receiver you could get it for $1,400 right now. That would be the Marantz SR7010, which is a great choice. Or if because he's constructing this room, so I don't think he's buying it this second.
Right.
You could definitely consider waiting till at least the October-November timeframe when the brand new Denon and Marantz models come out. And when they do, they will have 11 speaker capable models that are less expensive, because now the X4300 and the SR6010, which are both step down from the flagship models, both of them can still do 11 speakers, and they'll be in the like $1,300 range when they're brand new. So since you had $2,000 maybe to spend anyway, I would get that plus the Emotiva 5-channel amp for $500, and that way you can power your front 3 speakers. He's going to have 2 side surround speakers on either side, so you can run them off of the 5-channel amp, so it won't be taxing the amplifier in your receiver in any way. So rather than worrying about an inexpensive 2-channel amp, just get a $500 5-channel amp from Emotiva, their new A500 that they got there. I think that would be a great choice, and then you're still well under the $2,000 mark.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I misread that question. He's planning on the screen, whatever, so that 16 by 9 gives him 110 inches if his math is correct. Is it?
That is correct. 100%.
Right. The viewing distance will be 11.5 feet.
Sure.
The front row. Is this an okay distance? He likes sitting smack in the middle of an IMAX theater, but he wants to make sure he won't be overwhelmed by the image either.
If you like to sit in the middle of an IMAX theater,
you're not sitting nearly close enough.
This might even still be small compared to what you really like. Yeah. But yeah, I don't agree with going utterly insane. This is basically giving him a 49-degree field of view when he's watching CinemaScope. Then when he's watching 16 by 9, it'll be a 38-degree field of view. Both of those exceed SMPTE. Both of those exceed THX. I don't have any problem with wanting to do this whatsoever if that's what you like to view as a much bigger image. So I think this is okay, but I just want to warn you, if you like the middle of an IMAX theater, this might be a little bit smaller than you personally prefer.
But it's one thing to like the middle of an IMAX theater.
At an IMAX theater.
Yeah, at an IMAX theater. It is a completely different thing to have to sit that close to a screen all day long every day.
Yeah. I think this is pretty reasonable.
I think this is a reasonable. I think this is large.
It is. Oh yeah, it's
everybody
larger
else,
than I would personally like.
Yes.
But,
so I think you should be happy with it.
But it's not so large that I would say, oh, that's definitely going to be a problem. It's like, no, you could definitely prefer that if that's what you like. So
that's right.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Excuse me. Is the Panasonic PTAE 8000U still the go-to projector with lens memory for under $2,000? If not, are there newer or better alternatives or anything on the horizon? He's in no rush. The project will take about a year, and the projector will probably be the last thing he buys.
Okay, so that answers the AV receiver question.
Yeah, it sure does.
Definitely, you might as well wait because there'll be less. Like the thing is, if you've got a year to wait, then the models that come out in October, November will be add accessories for less a year from now. Even further, just you might be able to get an 11 speaker model for like $800 or $900 next year.
That's right.
That's very, very possible. So that is easy to recommend if you're not doing it right now. And there is a projector on the horizon. Oh, is there a projector? Because there's that Epson 5040 UB,
right,
which is high dynamic range capable. 2,500 lumens the thing can spit out, so it can actually do high dynamic range on the type of screen size you're thinking about. Full DCI-P3 color gamut, and it wobbles its 1080p panel, but it's compatible with 4K signals. So, and you know, it's going to be $3,000 retail. That means right away it'll probably be like $2,799 at a lot of places, and by a year from now, you might be able to get for $2,500. So, considering what you could save on the AV receiver. Plus, yes, we'll be exceeding your original $2,000 budget on the projector, but I think totally worthwhile. And it's finally got lens memory and motorized lens shift and all this stuff in an Epson. So I'm like, that's the one, man. Epson 5040.
So he loves his Denon AVR X2100W, so he'll be sticking with the Denon Marantz by the time...
This one we can skip.
Yeah, we already talked about this. All right, so basically get the thing with the thing. All right, he wants a small fridge in the back left corner.
Sure.
I thought there was a door in the back left corner.
Yeah, so this would be the back right corner because you reference it by facing forward.
Yeah. So it means it's the back right corner. So will that cause an issue with subwoofer placement? Should you try to configure the fridge into the bar and get the sub as close to the corner as possible? Well, if you're going to put the other sub in the front left corner and you put that one the back right corner, and it's not going to be exactly in the corner, just make sure your other sub isn't exactly in the corner either.
Yeah, I think he was aiming to hide the sub at the front of the room behind the acoustically transparent screen false wall,
which gives you all the space in the world.
Well, no, because he can't like bring it forward. Like he could bring it in front of the false wall.
Well, I thought he was just going to move the subwoofer to the side, so it'd be to the right of the thing. Are you talking about in front of it? You can't put it in front of the small
in front
fridge.
Of the false wall.
No,
so at the back, he was planning to have the little fridge in the rear right corner, right in the corner, and then have the subwoofer just in front of that. So it'd be like, I don't know, 3 feet from the back wall.
Face the fridge so that so the door is facing into the room. Put the subwoofer to the right of that. So it's towards the center of the room rather than towards the front of the room.
Oh, I see.
And then you move your sub on the front wall towards the center of the room as well. Put them both in the center of the room. What is the big deal?
Honestly, this is close enough to the corner anyway. I wouldn't even worry about it. I'm just put your fridge where you want to, put your sub where you want to, and this is close enough. I totally wouldn't even care.
Well,
so
that's what I would do. I would only shift the sub along the back wall, and then I would mirror it on the front wall. I don't see what the problem is here. I mean, I don't understand. All right. Anyways, finally, his wife has a concern about noise leakage bothering the neighbor. He's not going to worry. He's not going to worry much about soundproofing the room from the rest of the house. Would like to make sure that the sound doesn't leak outside into the neighborhood. His house is detached, so there are no shared walls. But it's a quiet neighborhood, and the theater is on the front wall. It is in the basement, and only half the wall is underground, but the exterior wall is concrete with only a 2 by 4 foot window. If he's listening below reference volumes, usually at -10, is soundproofing the outer wall even an issue? How close is your neighbors, dude?
Yeah, I mean, well, sometimes, right? Sometimes houses are only like even inches apart. It could be.
I would not worry about this even a little bit. I am not inches apart, but I am. It's probably my theater wall is 6 feet, maybe 8 feet from my neighbor's house. Now, of course, that wall is a garage wall, so he's got to go through the entire garage. But I've actually asked him. I'm like, sometimes, I mean, because during the summer or during the winter when it gets hot in this room because the projector's on and stuff, I'll open the windows. I ain't turning this thing down. I got the window open. It's a 4 foot by 8 foot window, and I've got 4 feet of it open. I've never had somebody come over and say anything to me. I mean, and we have a quote unquote. I mean, where are the not quiet neighborhoods at night? They're all quiet, right? I mean, unless you're inner city and there's or whatever. I mean, there's parties all the time.
To me, if somebody is lurking right outside of that little window, then maybe they'll hear something, but that's their problem. I mean, if you're in your house and they're in their house and they have their door closed, I don't think this is anything.
I can't imagine a situation. I mean, if you got somebody whose bedroom directly faces the front of your house somehow magically, and you open your window and they open their window and they're trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be an issue.
I will say, damp decouple your subwoofers. Don't have their feet in direct contact with your.
I don't see how that even really makes that much of a difference. You're not going to shake the entire exterior concrete block wall.
I mean, it's amazing how much the physical vibration can travel through solids. So just decouple your subs.
I don't see it.
I'd say decouple your subs anyway.
I'd say all the stuff we're going to tell you to do anyhow is going to be more than enough. Because once we start talking about sound, room treatments and stuff like that, you're going to be able to stand. You're turning up the reference volume, go outside. You're going to stand at your front door and go, I can't hear it.
No.
Wait a second. No, I don't know what that was.
No, this to me is not a concern.
Yeah, whole non-issue. And stop telling your wife how great your subwoofers are going to be and how they're going to shake your house, okay? Because this is where this leads. You have to manage expectations here. And you know what your expectations are. You tell her it's going to sound good, and stop telling her.
The whole point of the 2 subs is smooth, even bass that you don't have to crank way up and doesn't have to have gigantic peaks that are out of control.
That's right.
So you're in good shape.
Brandon just bought a Denon AVR X2200W at accessories for less to use in his 11 by 13 by 8 foot room.
Small room.
That is small. He would like to add a subwoofer for $300. So what do we recommend? He was considering a Bic PL200. Don't get that to start with.
I mean, if you have it, it's definitely not the worst sub ever made or anything like that. It's a half decent sub, but
we could do it. So I think I answered this question on email magically. I almost never do that, but I got it. I was like, Rob's going to say the STF2. All right, I'll see you later. I'm out.
From HSU Research, the STF2, which is more than $300. It's about $350 after you factor in shipping.
Yeah.
But this is one of those cases where that extra little bit of money is totally worth it. It's totally worth it. It's a really nice little sub.
It is. It's a nice little sub. And since he mostly listens by himself, is he correct that using a single subwoofer might be fine? You are correct. It might be. If you have infinite placement options of your subwoofer, you can find the one where your seat has the best possible sound for a single sub in that room. I don't know if you have infinite possible placement options in your room. If you only have one, then might not be so good.
Yeah.
He says he could.
This is possible.
This is possible. He could wait a few more months and save up some more money to get a $500 subwoofer. So, but would it really be worth it? How much is he giving up by going with the $300 sub? You are giving up around 15 hertz in extension.
You're expecting the $500 one to get down to 10 hertz?
No. I thought the 35 was with the STF.
No, 25. The STF2 goes down to 25.
You are giving up about 7 hertz of extension.
Yeah, maybe.
In a small room like this?
In a room this small, yeah. Yes. Not even that, really, because you're going to be getting some room gain from that 20 to 25 hertz stuff. Because it's not as though the STF2 stops playing below 25 hertz. That's just where it's 3 decibels quieter and then continues to get quieter below that. But you're giving up a tiny bit of the lowest of the low extension, but you're putting it in a very small room where you're really going to get most of that back. And it's pretty tough to say save up because the STF2 is darn good. I would seriously doubt you'd be disappointed getting that.
I don't think you'll be disappointed. I will say that if you were me, I would want a sub that went to 20 hertz and below. I'm not saying that you or me. I'm saying that it would bother me to know that if I had saved up 150 more bucks, I would have a sub 20 hertz
Now, see,
subwoofer.
I would save $200 to get me to 5, and then I'd save $200 more to get me to 700 and buy 2 SDF2s.
That would be okay too. That would be okay. I don't think he needs to, but maybe he does.
Yeah.
Glenn is a new listener. He says he loves the podcast, finds it informative, fun, and easy to understand. And he enjoys that we stick it to cable elevators and turquoise inlay guys. I've never stuck it to any turquoise inlay guys.
Oh, that was that reel-to-reel guy. He had the turquoise
that
inlay
guy's
in the reel-to-reel player.
that guy. The only adjectives I can use for that guy cannot be said on this podcast. Glenn is putting together. Sorry. Every time I think of turquoise inlay, I think all that Arizona art stuff. I think it's no tourist. Glenn's putting together 2 systems in his new house. One will be dedicated 12 by 15 foot theater, and the second will be in the bedroom. We'd like the theater to be 7.2.4. 7.2.4. Okay. Atmos setup.
Possible.
I'm not. Hey, everything's possible, Haas. You could put 19.15.75. It's possible. I've seen it done. It's not practical or useful, but whatever. Anyways, in his bedroom, he'd like to set up to be a 5.0 setup. He already owns quite a lot of high-end gear, and now he's listening to AV Rant. He's starting to think he might be a little bit of an overkill situation going on. Okay, so what he's got for
in terms of output capability, yes, sir, overkill.
You, sir, have more speaker than you have room. We will say that. An amplifier. I mean, amplifiers.
Yeah.
Days.
Yeah.
Okay, so in his remember, this is a 12 by 15 foot theater, and the bedroom is probably going to be like 10 by 11 or something like that. Who knows? Maybe it's a real small bedroom. Maybe it's a bigger one. So what he's got: an Anthem D2V processor, another Anthem AVM60 processor, an Anthem Statement P5 amplifier, which I'm guessing is a 5-channel amp.
It is.
He's also got
a very, very powerful one.
He's also got 3 Anthem M1 monoblock amplifiers.
Those are like kilowatt amplifiers.
Every time he turns on his amps, like the power dims.
Thankfully, those ones are Class D.
Oh, those Class D's in
Yeah.
All right. Paradigm Signature S8 towers, Paradigm Signature C5 center, 4 Paradigm Signature ADP 3 surround speakers, 1 Paradigm Sub 2.
That is the big one as well.
That's all the trapezoidal things. I wrote an entire article about these. That was all
6 10-inch drivers with a 4,500 watt amp, I think.
It's a big electric bill must just you can tell how many movies he watched that week. Then on top of all that, so that's his subwoofer. That's his stuff. On top of that, he's got Vienna Acoustics Klimt, Musics Towers. I don't know what that is.
That's their name. They're called the Musics, and they're part of the Klimt series.
All right, and he's also got the Klimt Poetry Center.
Yeah.
I should have clicked on this, but I just didn't.
They are large and expensive looking.
Yes.
And they are expensive.
They are expensive. So anyways, he was planning on getting 4 Paradigm in ceiling speakers and a second Sub 2.
Woo!
But is that second Sub 2 overkill? I'll tell you what.
Yes.
I can say unreservedly that you do not need a second sub. Do you need a second sub?
You need a second subwoofer.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be the Sub 2.
It does not have to be that one.
No. Not in a 12 by 15 foot room. Holy
You could
cow.
literally sell your current Sub 2 and buy all new speakers and subwoofers to go into this theater that would fit it just fine.
Really wouldn't be a bad idea. Because, I mean, the Sub 2 is a $10,000, I think, is a $10,000 subwoofer.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. Now, what you've got here is a subwoofer that is eminently capable. No problem.
Go down to single-digit hertz output if you wanted to. And
that's right. So, I mean, clearly, sound quality is important to you, and don't take our incredulousness over the amount of subwooferness you have as anything other than the jealousy that it actually is, because that's exactly what it is. Because if we had a 12 by 15 inch foot room and we had a Sub 2, we would be cackling. I tell you,
man, would that thing be turned down?
You'd have to turn it up with like a caliper, like click.
Yeah.
Oh, too much. So that's great. Do you need a second? It is definitely overkill. So what kind of subwoofer could you pair with this? Literally anything would be fine, but anything of a capable nature that goes down to like 20 hertz.
Yeah, I mean, like if you got like an SVS SB13 Ultra, which is wildly overkill for this room,
wildly overkill.
But I'm just thinking, you know, obviously he has money to spend. That's not the issue.
Right.
And he wants super duper high quality, and you can't get much higher quality in terms of bass output than those Ultra subs from SVS. The SB13 Ultra, for as incredibly overkill for a 12 by 15 foot room as it is, still can't play as loud as that Sub 2. So in that sense, it is far less, because what is it, $1,700? So it's far less expensive, and yes, less capable than the Sub 2, but still wildly overkill. So that would be super easy to recommend, because the two of those playing together will destroy your house if you want them to.
literally, let's put it this way. If in a 12 by 15 foot room, you and I would normally be arguing about whether or not they should get a PB 1000
or an
SB 2000.
Oh, sure. Well, either of those would be more than adequate. Yeah, I'd be wondering about maybe SB 1000s.
You could get away if they came and they asked for SB 1000. I'd be like,
oh, absolutely. 12 by 15?
Absolutely fine. That would be fine.
Totally fine.
So, could you pair one of those with a Sub 2? Yeah.
Yeah,
and it would just do fine.
It would.
It would be just fine. But I'm just worried that you're not going to think it's up to snuff, because your Sub 2, it like literally eats other subwoofers for breakfast. I mean, it's what it subsists on.
Very realistically, if you are able to sell your Sub 2 for something close to what you paid for it, you could afford 2 SVS subwoofers and probably some overhead speakers, like with that budget. So that is really not an out of place idea. Yeah. Well, no, because he's probably going for signature in ceilings, which are not cheap speakers.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe not everything, but you could definitely pay for some stuff. So it's an idea.
Now, if you're thinking later on down the line, you're going to build another home theater that's going to be
huge,
20,000 cubic feet or something like that, then you might want to get a second Sub 2 right now just to future-proof yourself. But if this is where you're planning on living for now, you're just how do you sit on it? Is that what you do in that room?
If he got an SVS sub, it's not like he couldn't sell that in the future.
That's
either,
true.
so.
That's true. All right. Anyways, he thinks his Vienna acoustic speakers are even higher quality than his Paradigm signature speakers. I would not be surprised if you felt that way. As such, should he use his 3 Vienna acoustic speakers in his dedicated theater, even though he'd still be using the Paradigm surrounds, or would it be better to keep all Paradigm in his theater, even though the Vienna acoustics might sound even better? That's a very good question.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that I would have it depends on what you use your home theater for. If you're using it primarily as a home theater, meaning you're just watching movies in there,
sure,
and you can use the Vienna acoustics in a separate application that would be more music based, I might be inclined to say keep it all Paradigm in this room, and then take your Vienna acoustics and put them someplace else. If it's I'm gonna put one of them in a box and save it for later, I would put my best speakers in the room. Paradigms are fairly neutral speaker. You know, they have that,
and those signatures are really, really good speakers.
Yeah.
So this isn't like he's going from really good to mediocre. He's going from really good to really good. So my leaning is keep it all Paradigm, because they are very nicely timbre matched. All the speakers that he has, they're all part of the same series. I do not consider those Paradigm signature towers and center a slouch in any regard whatsoever, full stop. So my leaning is just keep them all together, because you'll have a nice, wonderful timbre match in there.
That's true. I still think that the Paradigms would probably, especially the surrounds and the surround backs and the ceiling speakers, would probably timbre match pretty well with whatever you put up front, as long as the Vienna acoustics are fairly neutral sounding in the
I'm not familiar with them. I don't know. If
that's the problem. That's what we don't know. So I would at least stick them in this. I would set it up with the Paradigms, put the speaker, the Vienna acoustics in there, and just do some quick A/Bing and decide what you like. It certainly is not going to cost you anything but time to do that. So the real problem you're going to run into in this situation is if there's a significant timbre mismatch, specifically between your Vienna acoustics. Well, you got a center for those too, so it doesn't make a difference. I was thinking it didn't have a center, but it does. So if you got all three the same up front, you're probably going to be okay with how it sounds all the way around. But I would definitely check it out first. Now, he didn't really say what he didn't ask what we thought he should do in his bedroom, so I'm guessing he's got that all figured out. But
I mean, if he uses the paradigms in the theater, he'll use the Vienna acoustics in his bedroom, and vice versa. So
yeah, seems
that's
like
why I'm like, just go with your paradigms in the theater and use your Vienna acoustics in your bedroom, and I think you'll be very pleased.
Okay. Sam called DirecTV and got them to lower his monthly bill by threatening to leave them for Dish. My parents have done that in the past, too. When he asked them about getting a new DVR, the rep told him that he should hold off because in the near future, he might be able to buy his own third-party DVR thanks to new government regulations. Do we know anything about this? First of all, DirecTV employees are chronically lazy. So anything they can do to get out of work, that's just a truism. It's not just DirecTV; it's also the Dish guys and the Comcast guys. They seriously would much rather do anything than talk to you on the phone. I think we can all agree on that. I think we can agree on that. That being said, I mean they really don't get paid that much, and their job is mostly just to get yelled at by other people. So give them a break. All right, the guy just didn't want to fill out the work order. All right. They just didn't want.
Seems a little weird, though. Usually, they're more than happy to rent you or sell you a box. So
yeah. All right. So Josh Pollard from the Digital Media Zone is up to date on this topic. So
yeah, because I was not, but I knew that he was, so I got in touch with him and wrote to him, and he's a very nice guy. So he wrote back, and he's got the scoop.
So he's saying following Mary Silby's coverage on her website is the way to go. And what
we'll have a link to her website on avrant.com. So come to avrant.com. We have the show notes there. We'll have the link posted there.
So basically, the gist of it is the too long didn't read version is the FCC has been petitioned with a proposed plan called Unlock the Box. That's in quotes, which would see cable and satellite providers sending their video feeds to any compatible set-top box or DVR the consumer might choose. The cable industry has responded by saying, "We really don't want to do that." So we could provide their video feeds along with an interface controlling them via apps that could be loaded onto any compatible box.
Yeah, that's what the cable industry is proposing. So
that's what they want.
We'll have an app. That way, we still control the interface. We don't have some third party, like it could be Apple or Google or Amazon or whatever. They don't get to decide the interface, and we just send the video. We'll control the interface by having our own app. That's their idea.
Yeah. So they have now recently updated that proposal and called it Ditch the Box. The app idea is still in place, but they've added the option to include metadata that will allow for a unified search to work across all of the apps and other streaming services. But the point is that they still want to control the interface. But the key here is that neither proposal is close to rolling out. So Josh was a little surprised that DirecTV rep would even bring it up. Clearly, did you call him at 11:30 in the afternoon? 11:45 was the guy hungry? Anyways, if either plan moves forward, it won't prevent current boxes and DVRs from continuing to work. So Josh just says, get whatever DVR is being offered right now, and tell that guy to send it immediately and shut up. I have that last part. You should tell him Tom told you to shut up.
That's right.
That's what Tom said. Josh is too nice for that. I have no idea. Josh could be a jerk. I don't think he is.
No, Josh is very, very nice and polite, so he would not tell them to shut up.
Is he also Canadian? Is he Canadian?
Nope, not Canadian.
He can't be that polite. All right. Who are we talking to? I got lost with all the Joshes.
Sam.
People. Sam also contacted Amazon to try and get an Echo Dot, and he was told the Dot has been discontinued. They said it was only ever intended as a temporary product. So if we heard anything in development to replace it, he loves something other than the Bluetooth audio output provided by the regular Echo. So remind me what the Dot was again.
The Dot was take the Amazon Echo, chop out the big beefy speaker that's in there, put it in a tiny little tinny speaker that's just to give you like, yes, I received your command prompts. And that's it. So it looks like a little hockey puck. It basically is an Amazon Echo. It's just chopped out the speaker portion of it so that you can connect it to your own speakers, basically. And it was really popular, but they said at the beginning, and I had to look this up, they said at the beginning that they were doing one big production run, and when it was sold, it was done. and it was really popular, so it sold out really fast.
Oh.
So everyone is expecting that they will either do another production run or do a small update to it and have a replacement thing. But for the moment, it's just unavailable. You can still get the original Amazon Echo, but that's about it. But everyone is very much anticipating that something will be coming, because it was a very popular product that sold out even faster than they anticipated. So
Yeah,
they know there's demand.
all right. Ed, this is from Ping Pong Theater Ed.
Yeah. He had that ping pong table that you commented on years ago now at this point.
I was going to say, some of these names I don't even remember giving to these people. All right, Ed recently jumped on the Atmos train with an impulse purchase of an open box Denon AVR X1200W at Best Buy for $350. He has a 5.1.2 setup with front heights. It could be his imagination, but the Dolby Surround Up mixer seems to sound better than Dolby Pro Logic 2Z. Do we agree? I don't agree because I've never heard it, so I have no idea. But I have heard that the Surround Up mixer does a very nice job, and I would not be surprised that you felt this way.
Yeah, I haven't actually tried 5.1.2 in my setup, so I can't totally say either. What I can tell you is that I was never very impressed with Dolby Pro Logic 2Z. I never thought it really did that much, whereas Dolby Surround Up mixer I find very pleasant, so I don't think you're crazy at all.
All right, with the X1200, can he add 2 additional height speakers to make a 5.1.4 setup if he uses an external amp? If so, what amp should he buy, and how does he connect everything correctly?
Well, you don't have to worry about that second part, because
I was going to say, I was going to say, when I looked, I didn't actually look this up, but I saw the 1200 and went, that's too low to do anything more than 2 additional speakers. So I'm guessing what he was actually asking here is he wanted like not 2 additional height in front of him speakers, but 2 overhead speakers.
2 overhead, adding top middles or top rears or something like that to make it 5.1.4. And what he's thinking about are models like the current X4200 or the current Marantz SR6010. Those come with 7 amplifiers built in, but if you add an external 2-channel amp to those receiver models, you can go to 5.1.4. But the X1200, the X2200, the X3200, none of those could do that. They had 7 amps built in, and they topped out at 7 speakers, and that was the end of the story. Now, I will say, if in the future you upgrade to a different model and you want to expand and it needs an external 2-channel amp, I always recommend that Dayton, what is it, AP100? Something along those lines. It's got an A and a 100 in there somewhere anyway, but it's under $100, and it's totally adequate to drive your surround back or top middle or whatever speakers. It's, a $100 2-channel amplifier. It's perfect for that application. So that's the one.
So he says he's heard that Atmos is very flexible, can use as many as 34 speakers.
It can.
How does that work? We talk about 5.1.2 and 5.1.4 and 7.1.4, but not 24.1.10.
We don't mention it very often.
And if Atmos can use 34 speakers, why does he only see 13 possible speaker position listed in the AVR X1200W setup options? Well, what it in theory can do in a lab, and what it can what AV receivers these days are capable of doing, are 2 different separate things.
Yeah, you've got the signal on one side and the actual hardware doing the work on the other side.
So right now, I think we're topping out at about 7.1.4. Is it 9? Can we even do 9?
Not if you go to the Trinov. The Trinov Altitude 32
in normal receivers.
Normal receivers, 11 speakers is where they're
11 speakers is where we're topping out at, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the Trinov is the only one where we get, which is basically a computer.
Yes. Oh, very much so. It's got a computer's I/O port on the back there.
Yeah, it is basically a computer that it's been custom created just to do surround sound, and it can do.
Even it cannot do 34 speakers.
No,
it tops out at 32.
There you go.
Such as the Altitude 32 name might suggest.
Right.
So the whole point is, when Dolby created the whole Atmos scheme for the home, so in the movie theater, you go out to the cinema, they can use 64 speakers. They can top out at that many. That's what they can do in the cinema. At home, it tops out at 34, and they gave every single one of those potential 34 speaker positions a name. Every single one of those actually has a name. So If you have the hardware to do it, such as the Trinnov Altitude 32, you can name in that Trinnov 32 out of those 34 named speaker positions. And when an audio object comes along in the signal and says, here are my XYZ coordinates, where I'm supposed to come from in three-dimensional space, it says, well, I got 32 speakers to work with, and I know their names, and their names correspond with where they're supposed to be positioned in the room, and I will use whatever combination of these 32 speakers that I have at my disposal to try and make it seem like that audio object in the signal is coming from the XYZ coordinates that it says. Now, if I only have 11 speakers to work with, I'm going to do my best with the 11 speakers and the 11 names that have been assigned to them to make it seem like the sound is coming from those same XYZ coordinates. Or if I only have 7 speakers to work with, I'm still going to try. That's the job of the Atmos renderer. So the reason you have 13 possible speaker positions is because that's the hardware limitation of your X1200. Denon said, we can give you 13 named speaker positions to choose from. You pick 7. We've already chosen 5 for you. So there's really only 2 more that you have to decide. And they got to be a pair, so they can be surround backs, front heights, top fronts, or top middles. That's it. That's your choice. But pick one of those, and then the renderer will adjust. It will say, all right, now I know roughly where your speakers are placed in the room and how many I'm working with, which is 7. I'll do my best to make those XYZ coordinates come from where the signal says to come from. So that's how it works.
All right, you can't seem to find any hard info on whether the X1200 has DTS-X or not. I can almost guarantee you it doesn't without even looking it up. But yes, let me just go on. He bought the Blu-ray of The Last Witch Hunter just to hear DTS-X, but he played it, could only get HDMA out of it. He checked, and there's no firmware update available, so should he expect a DTS-X upgrade in the future, or is he just stuck?
DTS has said it's coming.
They have been promising that for quite some time now, and no one's really seen much of it. So
all of the 7 speaker max models that are out there, save for the very newest Yamaha models, the ones that end in a 50, supposedly those came from the factory with the DTS-X capability already in them. Those are the only ones that top out at 7 speakers. But everybody else, Onkyo, Pioneer, Denon, Marantz, everybody, if they top out at 7 speakers, DTS has not issued that firmware update yet. Now, it says it's DTS-X ready. When the firmware update is available, you will get a prompt, you will download it, and you'll be able to decode DTS-X. But so far, the only firmware updates they put out there have been for the 9 or 11 speaker-capable models. Those ones have received the update. It's supposed to be coming in September, but they also said that last year that it was coming in September. So which September? I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be September 2018 for all we know. But it'll probably come out in a September at some point.
Right. John was able to pick up a Marantz SR6010 from Accessories for Less, and it sounds great. However, there's a problem.
Oh, no.
He thought since it has 7 amplifiers internally and he already uses an external amp for his mains and center, it would be no problem to reassign the internal amps to power surround backs and 2 top middles to be added later. However, in looking through all the setup options, it appears that the front 3 channels cannot be reassigned. Is he just missing the settings in the menus, or will he need another external amp?
Well,
wait. My guess, before we get on with this, is, and this happens a lot, there are a couple, and every time it happens, I'm surprised, there are a couple of receivers out there where you can reassign the front 3 channels.
Right.
Most of them, you cannot. In fact, most of them, you can reassign the front 3 or 5 channels, basically. You can reassign the surround backs and whatever additional channels they may have. But the front 3s are very rare. The surrounds are somewhat rare, and the other ones usually you can do the reassigning. So whether or not this goes is what?
Yeah, so if you looked at all the diagrams that are in the Marantz manual for this, that would be exactly your conclusion, because none of them show the front speakers being powered by pre-outs unless you're just connecting an external amp to those pre-out connections and doing it anyway. However, if you make it all the way to page 229, there is one line in there that says you have this amp assign, and you first have to say, I have a 9.1 setup. That's what you have to tell it at first, because the SR6010 tops out at being able to process 9 speakers. But you have the option of telling it you have a Dolby Atmos setup, which automatically assigns it to 5.2.4, or you can say I have a 9.1 setup. That's what you have to choose. I have a 9.1 setup. And then you have to say, what do I have? 5.1 speakers plus surround backs, or 5.1 speakers plus 4 overhead speakers, or 5.1 speakers plus 2 overhead speakers and a second zone. What do I have? You have to tell it you have 5.1 speakers and surround backs. You do that. Then you have to tell it, I have 2 overhead speakers. That's the next one. No, 2, not 4. You have a choice of 0, 2, or 4. You tell it you have 2. All that's done. Finally, there is one last thing that says pre-out. And in that pre-out, you can choose the default pre-out, one of which can be front. It actually can be front.
No,
and it will actually reassign the 7 internal amps to the remaining speakers. So you'll never be so happy to have been slightly incorrect, John. You just had to read way down in the manual and make sense of what the heck they were talking about, because it is far from intuitive. Because first of all, the real key is you cannot choose the Dolby Atmos speaker configuration. You must choose 9.1 to start. That's the only way to do this. So it can be done, but heavens to Betsy, I don't blame anyone for being confused as to how, because it's not the least bit intuitive.
Nice.
Yeah. Can't be done, though, so yay.
Bill the Stumper.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, like everyone else, it seems, is turning his basement into a theater. I would very much like to have a basement that could turn into a theater. Yeah, I just want to say I've always wanted that, but I don't have one. All right, the room is 14 by 19 by 8. Right, 14 by 19 by 8. Good size. There will be 1 primary row of seats, likely a sectional couch, and a high counter bar with stools behind the couch for eating during movie watching. I approve. I think that's nice. Anyways, he wants full Atmos. We recommend a 5.2.4 or 7.2.4 given his room size. 1 row of seats, 19 feet deep. You could definitely do 7.2.4.
I agree. I say go whole hog. And you've kind of got a second row. You know, they're bar stools, but you kind of got
they're not going to be awfully close. They're basically be dropping food on you while you're sitting there.
Could be. But I'd go for it, man. Or at least wire for it. Right?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to physically install the speakers yet, but wire for 7.2.4 for sure.
That's what I would do. The maze will be a Acoustics Sierra 2s, but he's considering the Sierra Towers RAL and Horizon RAL. What are our thoughts on that? What we suggest for surrounds and for Atmos channels? What in-ceiling speakers will match well with the Sierras? So, do we need tower speakers in a 19? I'm kind of thinking you don't.
I really don't think, because it's not as though you're sitting 19 feet away.
No,
that's the total depth of this room.
It's really, I mean, I'm looking at my room, and my room's about that size, and I don't need tower speakers.
No, he's sitting like 10 feet away at most from this screen. Yeah, no, the Sierra 2s will be more than adequate for hitting full reference volume.
Yeah.
No problem at all. So I don't see a need. I mean, I know everyone is, enamored by the bigger tower speaker with the dedicated mid-range driver, and of course it's very alluring. But no, I mean, there isn't a need for it whatsoever. So
yeah, I agree.
If you do it, it's not like you're going to be saying, "Oh, I bought horrible sounding speakers." Far from it. But if you've already got the Sierra 2s, stick with them. They're fully adequate for this.
And Rob has been suggesting for a long time now that to go with your Sierra 2s is those Focals.
Yes,
one's called
Focal. Yeah, for in ceilings, for in wall speakers that match nicely with the ribbon tweeter sound. Then I'd very much like Focal there. I will say Sonance probably wouldn't be a bad choice either if you need to get the price down a little bit, because the Focal in ceilings and in walls are not cheap. You're starting at about $500 and going up from there, whereas the Sonance you could get for under $400 a pair. So if it's a budget thing, I'd point you at those Sonance. If you've got the budget to spare, then I think the Focals are a really nice match. As for the surrounds themselves, the ones that'll actually be on the side walls, they do have those Sierra Sats that are in development. Should be ready. Dave is aiming for sort of October timeframe with those. So if you can afford them, because they're not going to be cheap, they're probably going to be like $1,000 a pair or more. But they would be great to put on a wall and very perfectly timbre match. So I'm of a similar idea of what we said before. Maybe get a pair of those Sierra Sats, put them on the walls as your surrounds, your actual side surrounds, and then maybe go for some Focals or Sonance for your surround backs and overheads. I think that would work really nicely.
For the receiver, after your discussion last week, he's looking at Denon Marantz for Odyssey, but is still considering Anthem, likely an MXR 1120.
Which is their big boy that has 11 amps built in, but interestingly, 5 of those amps are Class AB, the remaining 6 are Class D. So it's a very interesting design, but it has 11 amps built in.
So there's the Denon AVR X7200 WA compared to the MRX 1120. And what about other current or upcoming models? Basically, which receiver would we recommend most highly? We would recommend most highly that you wait until your theater is almost built and then ask us again, because things change quite a bit around here.
They do.
So I looked at this Anthem, and as Anthem is want to do, they don't have a whole lot of information about their receiver here. I mean, there's some stuff here, but you click on specs and you get like impedance of the pre-outs. I'm like, well, that's freaking helpful.
Yeah, Lee and I sort of went over the differences there last week.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know, like there's no video processing. It's all video pass through, no video processing at all. Like I say, that kind of interesting amplifier design. So, you know, there's definitely some differences here.
It has Play-Fi built in for both of the speakers out there that will take it, I guess.
Yeah, what I'll mention from Denon that's coming up is their AVR X6300H. That's going to be the model number. October-November timeframe is when it's coming out. That one has 11 amps built in. So if one of the things that drew you to the Anthem is that it's one of the very few receivers out there that actually has 11 amps built in instead of only 9, Denon will have a model coming out. That's that X6300. So that's definitely going to be an option. And that is one of the ones that will, first of all, that H denotes that it has HEOS. So if you're thinking about whole home wireless audio, it will have Denon HEOS built in there. And it'll be one of the models that's compatible with the new Odyssey app, the $20 app that you can load on an iPhone or Android phone that lets you tailor the target response manually if you want to, which was, of course, one of the features that Anthem Room Correction has that the current Odyssey models do not. But these brand new ones will have this Odyssey app. It's only $20. So, yeah. I'm thinking that might be the one you want to look at. I actually kind of want, as crazy as it sounds, I kind of want to warn people away from the X7200WA a little bit, just because quite a few people have had some issues with the DTS-X processing in that one. Surprise, surprise, DTS-X. Quite a few people have, because the 7200 still used 4 separate DSP processors, whereas all the new ones, it's one processor with 4 cores and actually a little bit more powerful than the combined 4 in the 7200. So the 7200 is now going to be a 2-year-old model. It's not getting some of these other features. So I'm going to point you at that X6300. I think that's the one you'll be most pleased with.
Yeah. All right. He uses dynamic EQ in his current Denon. Does Anthem have a similar feature in ARC? We didn't mention that particular feature last week. No, I don't think it does. Does it? I don't think so.
No, it doesn't have something equivalent to dynamic EQ.
I don't know
so that's a really good point.
That is. I don't. Does anybody? I mean, there's a couple of
Yamaha does.
Yeah, I mean, they have their whatever thing. I mean,
YPOW volume they call theirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, also he doesn't have a Windows PC to use for ARC if he does go
Dude,
Anthem.
everything's coming up, Denon. That's
if you bought a PC just for an ARC, what would minimum system requirements would be? I would not buy a PC just to do this ARC thing.
Yeah, just
that's I mean, the thing already costs $3,500.
Yeah.
Is that right? Exactly. Am I right? I think it's $3,500.
Yeah.
I actually looked at it, was like, really? It costs $3,500?
Yeah.
Does it go?
No, that X6300 brand new is going to be $2,300. That's like full retail price. So it's already $1,000 cheaper. Well, yes, you'll have to add $20 onto that for the Odyssey app, but I think you're okay. So, you know, I gotta tell you, that's
$3,500 for that bad boy. 11.2 preamp, 11-channel amplifier. I mean, they say it's a preamp. I mean, it's not. It's an amplifier. I mean, it has pre-outs, but it's not a preamp. Yeah. Anyways, whatever. I know that the ARC is very interesting, and I like it. And whatever, but
no, its big thing is that it's more manually controllable. But now Odyssey's going to be on par with that with their app. So, yeah.
Brandon wonders about glossy finishes such as those available on the Hyperion and SVS speakers.
Sure.
And I'm looking at it right now. Okay. Yes. How durable is a glossy finish compared to a standard vinyl wrap?
Depends on how well they did it.
Well, that's part of it.
Some are more durable than others.
My Hyperions, they have gotten nicked, but they have gotten nicked in ways that it didn't make any difference what the finish was. It was getting nicked. These things have gone all the way to and from Australia. They got nicked. That's just the way it worked. So there's little scratches here and there, and that's pretty typical on glossy finishes. A lot of times, if you bump it too hard, like it'll flake, a little piece of it'll flake off, and you get this, like a little white underneath sort of thing.
Yeah, I hate that little white powdery look that sometimes happens.
That being said, you would be hard pressed to look at my speakers and see the nicks, even if you were looking right at them, because the glossiness of them sort of overshadows everything. So I honestly think vinyl reps are a little bit easier to damage, but it might not be as noticeable when you do.
Yeah, and cheaper to fix if you ever want to.
Yeah. It can be a dark room. Who cares? So does the glossy finish scratch easily, say, from dusting the speaker or from kids bumping into them? No. I don't find that. Also, are swirl marks from cleaning an issue to worry about? Not if you don't. You do what I do and don't clean them. They just sit there gathering.
Don't use a brush attachment on a vacuum. That will scuff it up. I can tell you that from firsthand experience.
So what's the best way to clean glossy speakers to protect their finish? Well, almost every speaker manufacturer that I know of, when they send you glossy speakers, usually sends you a cloth.
Yep.
And that cloth is what you should use, and there'll be some instructions in there, and they'll tell you exactly what to do. It's usually, get a little damp, maybe, and then just be very gentle with it.
Yeah.
Usually you just dust.
If you're buying a cloth, the same cloth you would get for prescription eyeglasses, to clean prescription lenses, that will not scratch a glossy surface. So that's the perfect type of cloth to use. Yeah.
The ones that I got from this Aperion looked like a face rag. It was like a big yellow, if I remember correctly, it was like a big yellow rag.
Like a chamois?
It was very, very soft. No, it was fluffier than that. It was fluffier than the chamois. But it was very soft. I was like,
maybe it was the like the sheepskin. Sometimes they give you that sheepskin cloth. Yeah.
Tom, not me, different Tom.
Yeah.
Just started watching and thinks our advice is fantastic.
Oh, thanks, man.
Now I feel like it's sarcastic. Fantastic. Don't put the fantastic in quotes. If you
No, that's Austin does that so we know that is literally the word. I know
when he's doing it, why he's doing it, but every time I see that's quotes, I'm thinking air quotes. It's fantastic because you two are smart and attractive. He has a 7.2 all polk system, except for the recently added second sub, a Golden Ear Force Field 5.
It's a pretty nice sub.
Powered by an Onkyo TXNR 929 receiver and a 14 by 15 by 8 foot room. Pretty small room. He listens to music on Tidal more than he watches music. Watches movies, sorry. Okay. He is truly happy with this system. All right. We're all done. But is contemplating an external amp for the RTI A7 mains and CSI A6 center. Will this improve his sound? No.
Really, in that size of room with easy to drive speakers like you got, you're not going to hear. You might convince yourself if you spend enough money. And if we took a fMRI brain scan of you, it might even genuinely be a different brainwave going on in there, because people will convince themselves of many things. But no, this is not the way to substantially improve the sound of your system.
Not even a little bit.
Wouldn't spend your money that way. Yeah.
It won't improve it at all is what I would go with. Zero improvement. It's measurable.
Like if he went for like an ATI signature amp, it's conceivable that if you measured them, the ATI signature amp would have a lower noise floor. That is objectively a possibility.
That is true.
You're not going to hear it.
It's not going to hear it. All right. After adding the second sub, he's been ecstatic over the quality. I mean, he's going to be very disappointed that we told him not to buy an amplifier. Now,
if you buy one, we're going to go, good on you, man, because I bought an amp. Tom's bought an amp. That's how we roll, man.
We like our amps. Don't get us wrong. But what we're saying is that we don't hear a difference from them. They're just really pretty. Yeah. All right. After adding the second sub, he's been ecstatic over the quality of the bass. Yeah. Are there other tweaks he could make to improve his overall sound?
There you go.
Treatments.
Yeah. Or new speakers.
New speakers would do it too.
Because if you want to hear this is definitely a different sound, then that's The room and the speakers. Those are the things that'll do it. Really not the amp. I mean, there are cases where you need an external amp. You got a big old room and you're sitting more than 15 feet away. I will totally make the case for an external amp over the one that's built into your receiver. Absolutely, but not your case. So yeah, if you want to spend it on room treatments, for sure, get in touch with GIK Acoustics because they will analyze your room for free. So there's no reason to not take it, even if you don't end up buying anything.
He's got a fairly square room, and not only that, it's 15 by 14 by 8, right? It almost sort of divides into itself a little. It's getting towards 16 by 16 by 8, which would be awful. Yeah. But it's getting pretty close to those dimensions. So it's very possible that some room treatments in there could make a huge difference as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, and GIK Acoustics will, they'll get you to send, like, if you want to send pictures and diagrams, they'll take all that stuff, and they'll come back to you with suggestions for free, man. So, yeah, take advantage.
Free is good.
Very.
Free is my price. Jonathan read the TechHive.com review of the Rune Labs audiophile music server. I would have stopped reading the review at the words... Probably Rune, to be honest with you, because it's ROON, which is not a word and doesn't make any sense. Labs, and then audiophile would have definitely kicked me off. All right. And yet the reviewer says that despite his, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to read this out loud, deep skepticism about boutique audio products. By deep skepticism, what he means is he doesn't have that at all, and he's very excited about this product and can't wait to tell you about it.
He asked for it, so
he found the audio output of the Rune to have a quote punch when unquote when playing compressed files that was lacking when the same files were being played by other software such as iTunes, Windows Player, VLC, and others. The difference was so pronounced.
It could be
that he asked the company if the player was doing some kind of enhancement. They said it was only quote, really good conversion of the 44.1 kilohertz used on CDs that was making the difference.
Did you play some test tones and sweeps? Because that could have answered it right quick.
What's really going on here is the reviewer wrong. Is Rune doing processing and lying about it? What do we think? We think it is all the same. It's the same thing that makes cable elevators sound better. It's the same thing that make amplifiers.
I don't entirely believe that. I think they're EQing the signal. I think that's what they're doing.
They might be. It just could be
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's super easy to do. They're talking about taking MP3s, AAC files, so, compressed, lossy formats. They run it through some kind of processor, and they spit it out, and they say, listen to how different it sounds. And this reviewer says, hey, it actually does sound different. And it very well could. And they're saying, oh, it's just really good conversion. I'm like, well, really good conversion? What the hell does that mean? It means you're probably EQing the signal.
Yeah. Possibly, but I honestly...
No, you know how your AV receiver has that compressed music enhancer thingy, right?
Yeah.
It's got that thing, compressed music enhancer. Well, you wouldn't say that that is just straight decoding the signal. It is altering the signal, and it sounds audibly different. Surprise, surprise. So I think that's what Rune is doing. They didn't say as much. They didn't deny it. They said really good conversion. Well, conversion. There you go. There's the word right there. We converted it from one thing into another, and we think it's really good. And you could hear the difference. So I think it's as simple as that.
Could very well be. But honestly, I don't think they need to spend the amount of money they would have to spend in order to actually do anything. These are audio files we're talking about here. And I'm not joking at all. You literally don't have to do anything to the signal to make people believe that they hear a change, as long as the box costs them enough.
Yeah.
You tell them that box costs as much as $2,000-$5,000 more than the $50 thing that normally does it. They're gonna think it sounds better. And things like punch. What the hell does punch mean?
No, like
what does that mean?
None of these reviewers ever just play frequency sweeps. Like, if all you're doing is listening to music and you're saying, gosh, I think this sounds like, you don't know what that original signal was. You don't know it. But if you send it a sweep where every frequency is played all at the exact same volume, you know what the signal said to do. And when you're playing it through iTunes and you hear a nice even sweep where all the frequencies sound even, and then you play it through Rune and there's a big old hump somewhere in that sweep, well, now you have your answer. But they never play sweeps. So.
No. They don't want answers. They want hyperbole.
Yeah.
Nick.
Mysticism.
Rob has Nick mostly convinced not to worry about his screen texture, but may still request a sample from Seymour just to be sure.
Absolutely.
I kind of feel like he thinks these screens are made like those woven chairs.
Wicker?
You know, those little, not the wicker ones, like the plastic ones, like the beach chairs. They're a little bit tighter than that, Nick. Just a tad. He wants to be able to hit full reference volume in his first row of seats, with the system being all Sierra 2s and Sierra Sats. He needs something like an Emotiva XPA Gen 3 to hit reference with low distortion.
No.
I don't remember how big his room is.
He's 10 feet away. He's in you don't.
You'll be fine. Having listened multiple times.
Just to say, to hit full 105 dB peaks, you need less than 200 watts, but that's a peak. That's a momentary peak. So you don't need a 200 watt per channel RMS, all channels driven simultaneously. I can deliver 200 watts constantly type of amplifier, which is what those XPA Gen 3s are.
Right.
You don't need that. You need it to maybe deliver 200 watts for a tenth of a second, which even an AV receiver can do. So, yeah, you don't.
Again, it's one of those situations where you can just buy the receiver, plug everything in, turn it up real loud, and go, I don't hear any distortion.
Now, same thing here, though. He's going for like a 7.2.4. The AV receiver he has 9 amps built in. He needs 2 extra amps anyway. So maybe you get the $500 Emotiva 5-channel amp, the 125 watt per channel one. Maybe you go ahead and do it because it's not like crazy expensive, and it takes some of the burden off of the AV receiver, and you get to have a little bit extra wattage in there. And you had to buy an amp anyway. So that type of thing I got no problem with, because it's not like going insane about it and wasting your money. So I could see that.
So, having listened multiple times to Anthony Grimani on Home Theater Geeks and be impressed by his depth of knowledge, Nick is considering the MSR Dimension 4 Symphony 2 acoustic treatment system designed by him. I'm not saying his name again. He could save a few $1,000s and just buy treatments from GIK, but the C fuser and P fusers made seriously, dude, made of exotic hardwoods seem unique to the MSR systems. Can similar treatments be had for more budget friendly companies like GIK? Are the MSR systems worth the extra money? Okay, so before we go into Rob's analysis of this, let me say I clicked on the link, which is something I don't always do, but I was very curious as to what this was. So I looked at what these are. So they have the Symphony 2 absorbers, which are 24 inches by 48, so 2 feet by 4 feet by 4 inches deep. High density frictional absorbers wrapped in fabric, aka
absorbers like from anywhere else.
Everywhere else. It is probably mineral. I think what they're going for here is mineral wool instead of fiberglass for the most part. I think they
same effectively to the sound though.
From the sound perspective, it's got nothing. All right, then he's got these P fusers, which are 3D high frequency diffusers modules with absorption. They are 2 foot square by 6 inches deep. They're little cone looking things made of solid wood, damped equilateral triangle cells. And these are supposed to be
they're meant to scatter the sound.
Yes, but I mean they're whatever specific very high rare wood crap. I don't know.
Sure.
He's got a C fuser, which is another 2 foot by 2 foot by 6 inch 2D diffuser, which is basically like a rounded thing. Same deal. It just scatters the sounds.
It's like a portion of a cylinder. So take a cylinder and chop a flat back wedge out of it, and that's sort of what that is. Yep.
Yes. Again, made of wood. I don't know that these are all these unique, but they do exist. Symphony 2 bass filter. It's a 2 foot by 4 foot by 4 inches, 4 1/8 inches deep, with a beveled edged panel consisting of mineral wool core clad in fiberglass lining and wrapped in fabric. So basically, it's the same dang thing, except it's a
base trap. It's beveled edges, so it can go in your corners.
So you can put it in the corner. And then he's got these cloud panels which hang from the ceiling, which are 2 foot again.
They're only an inch thick.
2 feet by 4 feet, again by 1 inch. And why is everything 2 feet by 4 feet? Because that's the way the stuff ships.
Yeah.
They all ship in 2 feet by 4 feet. Anything smaller than that's been cut. Flat panel consisting of mineral wool core clad in fiberglass lining wrapped in fabric with hanging hoops. Basically a 1 inch panel. All those panels, every single one of them, can be found at GIK for a fraction of the price. The wood stuff right there, I would argue, other than being wood. First of all, Uh, what did he say in his question? He said, made of exotic hardwoods.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about sound. Sound to give two craps about how exotic the hardwood is it's bouncing off of.
It's a looks thing, right?
It is a looks thing. So that's great. But you can see on the website what they have created. It is not some fractional design, which a lot of these diffusers are made of, where they use mathematics in order to vary these things to make sure that it's scattering as best as possible. These are 4 equilateral triangles in a 2 foot by 2 foot box. They are square
little pyramids, basically.
Little pyramids, right? This is one little rounded thing. This is not that hard, dude. This is not that hard. This is something that if you really wanted to have something exotic that looked nice on your house, give yourself a month of playing with wood and laminating some stuff, and you could do this yourself. Guaranteed.
So GIK makes very similar things out of plastic instead, which means that they have their polyfuser, which is very much like the C-fuser. It's the part of a cylinder thing, the rounded thing, with absorption inside so that it acting as a bass trap and a diffuser for the higher frequencies, $135 instead of $525 for the MSR one. So there's that. And then they have, GIK has their grid fuser, which is actually more scattering than the P fuser with its 4 little pyramids. That's $55 versus $590.
Ooh.
Kind of a significant difference in price there. And then if you want wood, because you just like the look of wood and you want something that has wood grain on it, GIK does have their Q7D diffuser, which is a 2 foot by 4 foot panel. So you would actually need 2 of the P fusers, which remember are $590 each, because they're 2 feet by 2 feet, the P fusers. So that's, $1,180 versus $260 for the Q7D. So, which is wood, and it looks like wood. So, GIK is much less expensive. And then, as we described, they have virtually exactly the same thing as far as absorption panels go. Including ones that have a tuned membrane on them if you want to, or they can put a scatter plate on top of an absorption panel if you want them to create a combination of diffusion and absorption. Now, what I wanted to address in that MSR Symphony 2 layout is I think the layout of where to place the panels is darn good. I got zero problems. He's like, bass traps in the corners, one big old thick bass trap either on the front wall or the back wall.
Yep.
Right? Some absorption with a mix of like absorption and diffusion at your first reflection points, which makes all the sense in the world. A little bit more diffusion towards the back of the room, a little bit more absorption towards the front of the room.
Okay.
Totally makes sense. And so if you want to follow the layout, but just use much less expensive products from GIK to do it, you totally can, and I think it will work very nicely. I have zero problems with where he suggested placing these panels and which types where. I think it's a great plan.
Yeah. I'm sure the guy is very knowledgeable. Just like
he is. Yeah.
There's tons of people out there, and they make great products. I'm sure this is a great product, but GIK just undercuts them, and just that's just the way it is.
And you got to do it yourself, but there you go.
So how are Atmos height speakers affected by room treatments? That's laid out the way Grimani recommends. Obviously, don't want the placement of the speakers to be where there could be a panel on the ceiling. You've got that backwards. You don't want there to be a panel on the ceiling where you want there to be a speaker. Sure. That's what you want. You place the speakers and you put the absorption and the stuff around it. You don't place the panels and go, well, I wanted to have an overhead speaker there, but there's a panel in the way. That's not how this works. Are there any changes to the location of acoustic panels that need to be addressed when going with the full 7.4.4 Atmos setup? Well, yeah, you put the speakers and then you place the panels.
The one change I would suggest is what Grimani has suggested is a mixture of absorption and diffusion on the ceiling with primarily absorption towards the front of the room and diffusion towards the back of the room. And normally I'd be totally in agreement with that. But when you have Atmos speakers and you actually have speakers on the ceiling, my personal recommendation is to, and this actually leads right into his next question, so I'll just kind of answer it now. My personal recommendation is to go with like wall-to-wall carpet on the floor, so your floor isn't reflecting anything, and then go with only diffusion on the ceiling. And it's quite easy to place those 2 foot by 2 foot diffusion panels around on your ceiling. So rather than having any absorption on the ceiling, because you run into potentially some issues where, because you want really, really wide dispersion from those in-ceiling speakers so that it sort of blankets your audience. So I don't really want to have absorption panels around my in-ceiling speakers, potentially blocking some of that diffuse type of sound. I want diffusers up on the ceiling and then wall-to-wall carpet on the floor so that I'm not getting a big floor bounce off of there. So that's about the only adjustment I would make, and it's because you now have in-ceiling speakers, whereas before you didn't. So that's what
or you could just leave off all the ceiling stuff, and
you could, yeah.
There's no reason why you have to have all that stuff on the ceiling, other than the fact that he would like to sell you many, many, many of these panels.
Oh, sure, but those grid fusers are $55 a piece. That could be very doable.
Yeah. How crucial is the sound quality to have hardwood floors and then an area rug? How crucial is it?
Because that's what Anthony Gramani recommends. And that's coming from, he uses the same ratio that I've espoused, which is about 30% of your room being absorptive and about 70% of your room being reflective. Right. And he's saying, since he's telling you to put this much absorption on the side walls, front wall, back wall, and ceiling, that if you were to carpet the entire floor, you might exceed the 30% mark, in total surface area. So he's like, go with a hard floor and then cover the portion of the floor that you want so that you get to about that 30% mark. Whereas I'm saying, get those absorption panels off the ceiling and just carpet your whole floor. And then it's easy.
I mean, this whole sort of magic number of, well, we need 30% of this and 40% whatever. I can't get behind any of that. It's not that cut and dry. It is. I mean, first of all, I don't think you're getting that much absorption out of your carpet. You are getting a little bit. There's some, depending on what you put underneath there, and maybe even some diffusion based on, how nappy your carpet is, maybe. But it's not, at least to me, it's not something that I'm going to worry about. I'm not going to say, honey, I'm sorry, I know it would be cheaper to just throw carpet in here, but we're going to get hardwood floors and then put a rug over 65% of it. We'll have to measure that out to make sure, so that we can, we might have to get a custom rug. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just throwing the carpet down in there. All right. So he says, is this something he doesn't need to worry about, since the Sierras with the rowel ribbons have a narrow vertical dispersion? If he doesn't need to worry about the floor as much, does putting treatments on the ceiling matter? Rob already kind of addressed that. And frankly, I just think that you're worrying about all the wrong. This is not something you need to worry about. Throw some carpet down on the ground, call it good. Put nothing on your ceiling at first, call it good. If it sounds like you need something else, put some diffusion up there. Like doing the clap test. The clap test will tell you. You stack your hands together, and if you hear a zing in a little bit of reverberation, then some diffusion on your ceiling will knock that down for you. Yeah. So that would be the test. I think that this is I think putting some panels, I think the panels that he's got up there in that room mostly are fine. It's way overkill. I mean, it's good. But for most people, I think it's overkill, because most people have more furniture in their rooms and stuff like that. It just it ends up being, I think, just a little bit too much. It's like going into a custom built room, and yes, they have everything exactly the way they want it, and you're like, yeah, but there's no outlets on the wall. And they're like, well, we didn't need them in here because this is a custom built room for this and this, and we have whatever. Like, yeah, but where do I plug my phone in so I can charge it while I'm doing this? And things need to be a little bit more realistic. And in my world, when we're looking at that room, I'm like, this is a great setup. I'll do 35 to 40% of that. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. And everything else is going to be like pictures that my wife's going to want to hang on the wall or something like that. And I'm just going to live with that.
Which could be acoustic panels. So I have a programming note suggestion, because we have Josh and Randy and Infinite Gary, all of whom I've already responded via email. Now, we'll get to them on the podcast, because we don't edit what questions come in and what makes it on the podcast. But at least I know those guys have already received answers. Whereas Matt G has not been answered, and he was really hoping we could get to him this week. And then also Martin D's question is pretty short. So since we're low on time, maybe we can skip to
whose fault is that?
Those two guys. It's my fault, because I upgraded to Windows 10.
It's Microsoft.
Well, no, they gave me a year to do it, and I waited till the last minute. So that's
still their fault. They made it hard for you. All right, Martin D just recently found our podcast and he's really enjoyed it so far. Last week, Rob described how to level match dual subwoofers. Martin gave it a go using the SPL meter on his, SPL meter app on his iPhone. But even with his XTZ subwoofer set to its manufacturer's suggested volume dial setting, and the volume dial is AV receiver turn all the way up to 0 dB, the SPL meter app only read about 45 dB. Cranking the subwoofer volume all the way up still resulted in the SPL meter app reading far below the 75 dB figure that Rob mentioned. So what might have gone wrong? The app.
Any chance
my guess
that the app was actually set to A weighting?
Could be.
Because most of those SPL meter apps try to sort of mimic a handheld SPL meter, which normally has A weighting and C weighting. To me, that's the easiest and most likely culprit, because usually it defaults to A weighting, and you have to manually switch it to C weighting.
Yes, yeah, and slow, of course.
Yeah, and to tell you what that is, A weighting is really only measuring between 500 hertz and 5,000 hertz. Above and below that, it just doesn't respond very much. So, of course, your subwoofer is playing well below 500 hertz, which would explain why you're getting very low readings if it's set to A weighting. C weighting more or less measures from about 80 hertz to 8,000 hertz. Now, the 80 hertz signal, you might be thinking, oh, that's right across over, but the sub's still playing all the way up to 160, and you're playing pink noise when you're doing the test tones. So C weighting is enough, it's adequate. A weighting really isn't. So to me, that's the most likely culprit. The other one could be that it's an app that was not calibrated for the iPhone's microphone, and that's a possibility, but I actually think it was set to A weighting. That seems very likely to me.
He uses a Yamaha RX A3050, which of course has YPOW, just their room correction system. How does that compare to standalone software like Dirac or manually creating EQ filters using REW, which is kind of sort of the same thing? Is
Room
one
EQ Wizard.
REW, yes, Room EQ Wizard, for those of you that haven't been listening to this podcast. Is one always better than the other, or does it come down to the skill of the user? Well, YPOW is completely different in my mind. The 3050, does it have the RSC and all that stuff?
It has the reflected sound control. It has the 3D angle measurement, which only applies to Yamaha's own special listening modes, but it has all that special stuff.
It has all that special stuff.
And it still only measures down to 32.5 hertz.
That is true. So, Yamaha makes their own, they only have a certain amount of processing power, and they make their own decisions based on that. I find YPOW to be fine. I find it to be a perfectly adequate room correction system that I have no problems with. If you have it, you should use it. Now, standalone software like Dirac or manually creating EQ filters using REW, well, Room EQ Wizard is what we use in order to get those filters into the Dirac, and the Dirac is what basically does the stuff for us. So,
it doesn't have to be that way, because the mini DSP is one of the ways you can add Dirac to one of your systems.
Well, that's the way I always think of it. Is there another way to add standalone software?
No, not unless Dirac is built into the thing you already have, like Emotiva's processors.
Yeah,
or
which is,
I forget who else has it. Somebody else has it. But where they share a thing is like Room EQ Wizard. You can create your own EQ filters manually, or have Room EQ Wizard do it for you. And then you can load those into a mini DSP,
right? Or
you can get the Dirac version of mini DSP and run that setup software and do it that way. So they're a little bit different.
I mean, I think it's six of one, half dozen of another. If you're going to use Yamaha, it's not quite as powerful as using Room EQ Wizard, because you can measure and EQ whatever you want. That being said, is it going to make that much of a difference? It really depends on the user. It depends on the room. It depends on the application. It depends on where you put your speakers. It depends on all sorts of things.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind is, ideally, if you have good speakers and you've set up things well in your room, so you've positioned your speakers well, positioned your subwoofers well, positioned your seat well, and then you've acoustically treated the room. And the whole point of acoustic treatments, going back to the last question there, the whole point of that is to get you more similar decay times, so that high frequencies and low frequencies aren't ringing for vastly different amounts of time in your room, that everything sort of decays at a similar rate. If you've done all that, then no matter what EQ system you use, it shouldn't actually have to do very much. It should have to do very little if you've already done all that stuff. It's when you start trying to use it to correct much larger problems that you'll hear greater differences, but also none of them can really do it because there's only so much you can do by changing the frequency response that's coming out of your speakers. So, I mean, between these three, between YPOW, Dirac, and what Room EQ Wizard can do, Dirac is by far the most advanced. Dirac is the one that's measuring in multiple positions, using fur filters to adjust not only the frequency response, but also the amount of time that it's applying that filter. Room EQ Wizard is not doing that. Room EQ Wizard is measuring in one position, unless you manually measure in multiple positions and create your own average of all of those. And then it's just using parametric filters, which are IIR, infinite impulse responses, as opposed to finite impulse response, which means that filter is just always active. It's always attenuating or boosting whatever frequencies you've told it to. So Dirac is the most advanced by far. YPOW has some limitations, doesn't go below 32.5 hertz. So yeah, you know, there could be an argument made for adding Dirac, but it's also $1,000 box to do it. So you're paying a pretty penny.
Or you can just get Odyssey.
Yeah.
I don't know why Odyssey.
Or treat your room. Spend $1,000 to treat your room.
There you go. Matt received his B stock Ascend Acoustic Sierra 1 speakers. The only flaw that he could find were some very light surface scratches on the cherry finish, so he's happy he saved some money by opting for the B stock. He also says that the bass quality and overall output capability are outstanding. So he's no longer concerned about at all about his fairly large room size with openings to other parts of the house. Good.
Yeah, so lots of people were asking about, you know, bookshelves versus towers, and it's like, all things being equal, the tower with more drivers will probably play louder, but when you have a really well-designed speaker, like the Sierra 1 is, it's amazing what a bookshelf speaker can do.
That's right.
If it's designed really well and uses really high-quality parts.
So when he first set up his speakers, he used Odyssey 2 EQ, which is the very, 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 very base level.
The one that Odyssey didn't even really want to make.
They only made it because Onkyo said, we have two processing power. We have two processors. No, we have two processing power. How much is that? Not much. The mid sounded thin and the treble sounded harsh. He rearranged the room and ran the EQ again, and it sounded even worse. He thought he might have been crazy or might have something wrong with his hearing because the Sierra 1s received so much praise. So then he turned Odyssey off, switched from TV to movies to music, and suddenly he was hearing the sort of sound quality he was expecting. So is the 2 EQ just that bad?
Yeah, it kind of is.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
We've said it doesn't even EQ the subwoofer, so is there any harm just leaving it off? Absolutely not. Should he do something different that might deliver better results? Sounds to me like you need to treat your room. Honestly, it sounds to me like
could be.
A lot of times, regardless of what room correction you use, it can only do so much. So if your room is non-optimal, or your room has no room treatments, or your room is, your speaker placements are not well thought out, you could very much run into a problem where running a room correction makes everything sound worse.
Yeah.
By trying to make it sound better, it makes it sound worse.
2 EQ's adjustments are so coarse to begin with that they often do far more harm than good.
I would totally believe that. I mean, I got no problems, because we said that to begin with, and I said it at the same time you did. So leaving it off is probably the solution, no matter what you do.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's fine to use the auto setup to set your distances and your speaker levels, because it still gets that stuff right. But then you just turn off the equalization portion of it because it's far too coarse, and it doesn't correct what really should be corrected by EQ, which is the bass. It doesn't even touch the bass. So absolutely, I'm in favor of turning it off after you've run the auto setup.
Yeah.
Okay,
his center speaker is in a TV stand. He had to insert the speaker from the back due to a small edge that hangs down the front. That lip more or less lines up with the rubber surround on the center speaker's
I'm going to attempt
woofer.
to throw some pictures up on screen here.
All right,
I think I can do it. One more. There. Such great audio.
Oh, look at that. That is exactly what he described.
It is.
The speaker is recessed about an inch. The back of the cabinet is open, so airflow from the speaker port is not restricted, but is this placement negatively affecting the sound? And should he use a Sense optional port plug? To the second one, probably not. I don't think I would worry about the port plug, especially if he says there's a foot in the back there, right? Is that what he said? No, he just said that
I don't know if it's
airflow
that
is
much. No,
not
airflow is not like it doesn't. He doesn't have a back on the back of that cabinet, right? Which would be restricting airflow for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, putting in the port plug isn't gonna make a huge difference, to be honest.
So,
With that
but
type
what
of
you are
things.
going to have right here is the sound, you know, if you think about it, it's going out in like a cone, it actually wraps around the side of the speaker. But they can't do that because it's running into the cabinet that it's sitting upon.
Yeah.
And this little lip, it's hitting that lip as well, which is reflecting some of it back in there. So is it negatively affecting the sound? I don't know. It is affecting the sound. I cannot tell you that it's negatively affecting the sound. It is certainly doing something that the speaker designer did not intend to have happen to the sound.
Yeah, like this,
when
I
it
wouldn't
came
call
out.
this optimal speaker placement. Like, you know,
No.
I wouldn't recommend that somebody do exactly this. But then again, we also live in the real world where the speaker needs to go somewhere where it's not massively in the way. And I think you've done about as well as you can do given your restrictions, right?
I agree. I mean, you could try putting the port in if you want to, the port plug in. I don't think I'd concern myself with it unless it was sounding somehow
Yeah, because the only
bad.
other things he can do with this are put that center speaker on a stand in front of everything, or somehow raise up the stand of his TV and then put this on top of the whole thing. So yeah, I would say this is slightly suboptimal speaker placement. You're probably getting some diffraction of the sound off of that lip, but at the same time, you have a pretty darn clear direct line of sight from your ears to that tweeter. So the direct sounds are still making a straight line. So yeah, I think you're generally okay. And
All right.
most of all, you were saying after you turned Stupid 2 EQ off, it actually sounded really good. So it sounds really good. You're not crazy.
All right, his front, left, and right are on 15 inches tall speaker stands. That puts their tweeter closer to the same height as the center speaker, but they are all below seated ear level. He can get some 23-inch tall stands from a friend. Would these be better or perhaps too tall? Well, would they put the tweeter at ear height? Because if not, then they are the right height. 23 inches is probably the right height, to be honest with you.
So 7 inches more from here. Yeah, that's probably pretty darn
That's
close.
probably the right height. So it would not be too tall. It would be correct.
Yeah.
So.
Then again, these speakers have nice dispersion in all directions, including vertically. You could choose to rake them back a little bit, you know, tilt them a little bit if you really wanted to. But does it sound like they're below the TV to your ears when you're just listening? Does it sound like they're low? Because if it doesn't sound like they're low, then it's really not a problem, you know? So it might be beneficial to raise them up. You could try. You could stack some books on top of the stands you already have.
All this precarious stacking of things. You and your mouse pads and crap like that.
Know.
Stop stacking. He's got to borrow the stands. Borrow the stands from his friend.
Could do
Jeez,
that.
don't teeter things on top of books. Crazy person. So lastly, he asks, what sources do Tom and Rob use for music? Or high bit rate? 256 or 320 kilobits per second. MP3 streams from Google streaming music service. Good enough. That's perfectly fine.
That is totally good enough, man.
That would be good enough for me. What do I use for music? My car, mostly. Mostly is what I use as my car because that's where I listen to music these days. If I'm in my home theater, I use Blu-rays. It's what I've been. That's the music I listen to. I've got some, I have some DVDs and SACDs and stuff I'll listen to as well. But mostly, like I have some DTS CDs, stuff like that I will listen to. I have a universal player. I don't even have it hooked up right now because I don't listen to enough stuff to do with it. But normally, if I'm in here, I'm listening to DVDs or it's just CDs, high quality CDs.
Yeah, pretty much my whole music library is either CDs or iTunes downloads, which are 256 kilobit AAC. Because for music that I'm not super critical about, I just get the iTunes stuff. I don't really care. And for stuff that I really want in good quality, I get the CD. And that's about it. That's kind of what I listen to. All
right. So are we done? Is that it?
I believe. Well, I mean, if you want to go longer, I'm game. But
no, I have to get up really super early tomorrow. So Josh, was it Randy? Led's friend Randy, Gary. We answered those, and then we've got Bobby and Will and Nathan.
Yes. which thankfully all look pretty darn short.
Those are short questions. We don't have that today. We had one super long one and a couple extra ones too. So what was that? All right. So if you did not hear your name called and you did not send the question on the Monday, then that means that we didn't get your question, and resend it again. Where do you send it? Send it to question@avrant.com, or you can also CC Rob at avrant or Tom at avrant. Hit us up at the website, www.avrant.com. Go to facebook.com/avrantpodcast. And Twitter at First Reflect for Rob, at avrant_Tom for me. And at Austin, TEN, Austin Pond for our producer, Austin. Who has his own podcast, We Watch Movies. It is a podcast about the color pink.
All right. We watch movies about the color pink.
All about the color
Obviously.
Pink. Why? What else would you think?
I know.
Crazy person. All right. For AV Rant, I'm Tom Mandry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.